Hi, and welcome to the Financial Aid Basics presentation for new EMU students for the SOAR 2026 season. My name is Leanne Denja, and I am a Senior Financial Aid Advisor in the Office of Financial Aid at EMU. We are going to be covering a few topics today, but it is going to be a very short presentation, just under 20 minutes. And we won't have time for questions. So I do want to just mention that if you do have questions, you can either contact our office with those, or if you are viewing this presentation and your parent or family member will be going to the family session, you can go ahead and ask those questions at that time. So we're going to talk a bit about what you need to do to file for financial aid each year, how to use your MyEMISH student portal to manage your financial aid, how to use the calculating costs financial planning worksheet that's in each of your SOAR workbooks, as well as how to contact financial aid, and then some things to be doing between when you come to SOAR for orientation and when you start in the fall semester. So one thing that we want to just mention, most of you have probably completed a FAFSA. The 26-27 FAFSA is what's needed for fall 2026 admits. That's been available to complete since October of 2025. It is based on the 2024 tax year. So when you're going through the FAFSA, you may have noticed, or if it's not something that you've already done, you'll notice if you go to fill it out now, and it's not too late, by the way. When you do the 2026-27 FAFSA, it will ask you to consent to IRS data retrieval. That is now a requirement of the FAFSA for both you and your parent contributor if you need one, and something that just imports your data for you so that the FAFSA is as simple as possible. It is something that you will have to do each year, and each year it will be available in October. So you'll start classes in August, and then believe it or not, in October, it will be time to submit your FAFSA for what would be your sophomore year. I do like to just mention when talking about the FAFSA that if you are a student who has a parent contributor on your FAFSA, your freshman year, that's likely to be that way for the entirety of your undergrad. So a common misconception for students is that if their parents no longer claim them on their taxes, or if they move out and get their own apartment, they no longer need that as a parent contributor, and that's not the case. So until you're 24, until you're married, until you have children of your own, or join the service or become a veteran of the service, if you need a parent contributor, you will have to have that parent contributor regardless of whether or not you live in their household, regardless of whether or not they claim you on their taxes. Of course, there's always exceptions. There's students for whatever reason, whether it's due to death or certain relationships, are unable to add parent contributor information. And certainly if that's the case, you're not going to be expected to do that. But for most freshmen, they're able to have a parent be contributor, and that will be the expectation for most of their undergrad. So we do just like to clarify that. Once you have your FAFSA at EMU and you've been admitted, which we can assume is the case if you're attending this presentation, you'll be able to manage all of your financial aid for the most part through your MyEMISH account. So that's your student portal. When you open that student portal, and again, it's a student portal, there isn't a parent access point to this portal. So you could potentially give your parent access, but that is not recommended. It's meant for you as the student to use to manage your own financial aid and other things. You have a bunch of cards, and this is what the financial aid and bill payment card will look like for you. So this allows you to manage and review your aid offer 24/7, as well as submit most documents to our office, along with some forms that are also housed on our website. Speaking of our website, there are instructions for using MyEMISH on our website. So if you forget any of this, you can go there to get instructions, but most students find it pretty intuitive. So if you were to click on this financial aid status on the financial aid and bill payment card, you would be opened up to this screen. the first thing you're always going to see, whether you want to or not, is unsatisfied requirements. So when you click on financial aid status, the first thing you're going to see is what you have not done. So anytime you log in here, it's a good thing to just look and make sure and make note. Do I have unsatisfied requirements? In most cases, you're going to be able to click on a hyperlink and go directly to a form, or you're going to be click on that hyperlink and read instructions for what you need to do. But by and large, any documents that you would need to submit to our office, anything that you need to do to secure a loan, a federal student loan, is going to be something you can do right through your MyEmish account. If you're to click this offer, so when you click on this, you'll always come to this home page. You do want to make sure you're toggled to the right aid year. But if you click on this offer screen, that's where you can manage and review your aid offer. Now, one thing we like to point out, which is why it's circled in red here, this is not your bill. Billing statements will not be available until July, and that's if you're registered at that point, when you can expect to see a specific bill for you with an outline of your charges. The reason that we highlight this is that a lot of students will get to this screen and be confused because it provides what's called cost of attendance information. So it will show things like an estimate for housing, an estimate for tuition, an estimate for personal expenses or transportation, and a common phone call or email to our office is, why are you charging me for those things? Those are not charges. This is not a bill. That's information that we have to provide you about how your financial aid is determined. But what you really need to do when you're on the offer tab is scroll down to the bottom. Sorry, when I actually scroll, it goes to the next slide, but you're going to scroll down to the bottom so that you can view and accept any aid. So you'll see scholarships and grants section. Typically, almost never do you have to actually take any action on those. Those will already be in awarded status for you. There may be some things that are in offer status that I'll talk about a little bit later, but by and large, you don't have to accept or take action on scholarships and grants. After you get through that section, you'll see a section for loans, and that's where you can view and accept any loans that you may have been offered as a student, or if your parent's being offered a parent loan, that's also where you would see that, and you can accept that, but that will not make anything happen. If you decide to accept a parent loan, the first step is accepting it on this offer tab, but then your parent will also have to complete an application for that loan. So again, most of the time you're going to be clicking on financial aid status. It's going to show you anything that you haven't done. When you click on offer and you scroll all the way down the page, that's where you're going to see things that you can view and accept, like student loans. The calculating cost website, printout is something that you have in your SOAR workbooks. This is going to provide you a way to determine if and how much financial aid, if it will be enough to cover your bill. This, again, your billing statement is going to be released in July. So once you are registered and you get your first billing statement, you'll have an actual total of what you owe. But in the meantime, most people, when they attend a presentation like this, want to have the question answered, do I have enough financial aid? And that really isn't a question that we can answer for a group of people. There's probably, going to be up to 100 students sometimes, and that's not a question that I can answer, but you can determine that because your financial aid is very individualized and specific. So it's going to depend on your personal GPA, maybe your test score when you are admitted to EMU. That's going to determine your scholarship eligibility, your grants, your loan eligibility. That's going to be determined by the specific information on your FAFSA, and it's going to vary from student to student. So we provide this planning sheet so that you can do your best estimate. If your family member attends the family session during the SOAR event, they will also get a copy of this. Yours may be a little bit different, but I do just want to highlight these are estimated charges. If you have a housing and meal plan, this number right here might differ from what's in your workbooks, and that's because that is the exact charges now that they have been determined for a double occupancy room and an anytime meal plan, which is what most freshmen would choose. The tuition is simply an estimate. There are some other fees that you will get, and we don't want you to be blindsided by those. So those are outlined here. And then you can use this information to add up and determine what your bill might look like. So you can see here, if you are going to be commuting but attending school full time, you can expect a bill of about $9,000. And that is just for the fall semester. You will be billed separately for both fall and winter semesters. Even though we package you aid for the year, it will pay out half for fall and half for winter. So then you can go to that aid offer screen or take your aid offer letter if you have that from when you received it in the mail and fill in the types of aid that you have. So if you're going to be living on campus and attending full time, you can expect to receive a bill, again, just for fall semester, just under about $17,000. And then, so the question of will I have enough financial aid is, if you're going to be commuting, do you have $18,000 in financial aid? If so, then you might be covered in full. If not, then you won't. Likewise, if you're going to be a person who's living on campus and attending full time, do you have $34,000 in aid for the year? If so, you might be likely to be covered. If not, then you're going to have to determine what your plan is for paying any remaining balance. So if you qualify for Pell Grant, there's a line item here. If you don't, you can cross that out. That is determined by the FAFSA, not EMU. If you have an Emerald Scholarship or an Emerald and an Eagle Guarantee, you would be able to put those amounts in here. Michigan Achievement Scholarship is something that, if you're a U.S. citizen who is a resident of Michigan, as well as attended and graduated from a Michigan high school, graduating after 2023, that might be something that you would see as part of your aid offer. And then you can put in loans, or if you have any other outside scholarships, or if you decide, in talking to your parents, you're going to do the parent loan, you can fill those in these other. And then you're going to take the total from up here and use it down here. Take the total of your aid, put it down here, and then do the math to find out if you are going to have an anticipated balance. When e-bills are available, you will get an email statement sent to you. This is going to come to you as the student. It does not go to your parent. Your parent is not going to receive an envelope in the mail that says to the parent of, this is your bill for your education. You are the person responsible for it as the student. And anytime you register for classes, you're going to be prompted to check a box that says, I understand that I'm incurring these charges and I'm responsible for paying for them. So if you have a parent that's going to be helping you or another family member, please express your gratitude to them. That is something that they are doing, and that is a wonderful thing. And it's important to be grateful for the things that you have in life. So if you or when, I should say, you register for classes. If that's before July, you'll get your first billing statement in July. It will come itemized and then also prompt you to go to this website. Also, if you're ever in your My eMish account and you were to click on that pay e-bill, that would also take you to this e-bill system. Couple things I want to point out. Obviously, they have arrows here. If you ever wanted to do a payment plan, this is how you sign up for that right within the e-bill system. It isn't anything you'll call us about. It's something that you'll just use and sign up for yourself in the e-bill system. Authorized user is important. If you have people who will be making payments on your behalf, you're going to want to set them up as an authorized user. And you'll click on this and it's pretty straightforward. If it's a parent or whoever it is, actually, you'll put in their email address and then they will get a link that allows them to view your bill and make payments to your bill through the e-bill system. It also means that they will be getting notifications. When billing statements come out, you'll get that notification, but then so would your authorized user if you've added them. So if you have a parent or whoever it is that's going to be helping you pay your bill, it's a good idea to go in now and add them as an authorized user so that when you get that first billing statement, they will also get that first billing statement. Then you'll see the meat and potatoes here. You'll never see a bill this small, that most likely, unless you're a part-time student. But the student's bill is 5,000. Then it shows their estimated aid of 2,000, and so $3,000 is what they owe to the university after their financial aid. If you do a payment plan, it's going to be based on this bottom line amount. That's what you can expect to see. And then again, if you want to see an itemized statement, those will be listed and you can click on those as well as view the email that they come to. So if you have an authorized user, this view is going to look the same for them. And if they're going to be making payments on your behalf, it's going to look almost essentially the same. If you need to contact us in financial aid, it's important to know at EMU you don't get assigned a financial aid advisor. You don't have to, for instance, get stuck with me if your last name starts between A and D or something like that. Any student is available to go to Service EMU to ask questions about their financial aid at any time during business hours. So we do not do appointments. There's no reason to set up an appointment. We have walk-in advising Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5, and on Fridays from 9 to 5. There will be certain Saturdays for SOAR events where we will be open, I think from 10:30 to 4. But for the most part, if you have something that you want to talk to someone about, it's best to plan on an in-person visit during business hours during the week. So that's located in the Student Center directly across from the esports suite on the other side of the little grab-and-go convenience shop. If you would rather or don't feel that you need in-person service and would rather contact offices directly, Service EMU represents 3 offices as face-to-face help. So they represent our office, the Office of Financial Aid. So if you have financial aid questions, you can go there, or you can also email or call us directly by using this information. They also represent the billing office. You can also contact the billing office by emailing them directly or calling them. And then finally, records and registration. They also represent that office. If you would like to call or email, you also have that option to reach records and registration. I will say if you choose the email option, it's always important to include your EID number, that E02 number, along with whatever your inquiry is, of course. And then if you'd like to follow us on social media, we have an Instagram presence, we have an X presence, and then we also have Facebook presence. And on those platforms, we'll typically post once or twice a month with information on things like when the summer aid application comes out, if you plan to take summer classes, scholarship applications that might be open. We'll notify you usually via social media. We'll notify whoever follows us about when the FAFSA is available and things of that nature. So you can follow any of those ways to sort of keep a pulse as well. So this is the final slide of the presentation and just some next steps for things to do between when you either have attended this or listened to this on your SOAR date, and then when you're actually going to come to campus to start your classes. So the first thing that's really important that you do today, in your workbook, you should have a QR code for the FERPA form. FERPA is an acronym. It stands for the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act. That's not an EMU policy, but it's a federal law that protects you once you register for classes, which is presumably happening today. You're protected by this law, and it means we can't talk to anyone else about your account. Even if you're a minor, we can't talk to anyone about your account other than those you have released. So this FERPA release form is really important for you to fill out today if you have a parent, a family member, anyone that you want to advocate or be able to ask questions on your behalf. If you fill this out today, it's an online form, obviously, if you use the QR code, or you can also fill out an online form by going to our website. And typically within 2 to 3 business days, that would be in the system, and then allow that person to call on your behalf and ask questions. If it's not on file, we will be prevented from providing who's ever helping you with information, and that can be frustrating. So please make a point to do that today if you have folks in your life who you'd like to be able to ask and answer questions for you. In our forms directory, which is at our website, you can find that here. We have a work study interest form. So one of the things that you might have to take action on and accept by going to your MyEmish account, in addition to loans, would be work study. But the way that you get an offer of work study is by filling out this form. So we don't automatically package students with work study. That's something that you would need to let us know you're interested in by completing this form. And then typically within 1-2 weeks, we'll let you know if you have an award and how much it is. And you can go from there. Another typical form that families might be looking for at this period in time might be a special circumstances form. Or a loss of income form. Because the FAFSA is based on information from 2024, and that's 2 years ago, sometimes situations have changed. Sometimes a parent may have lost a job, they may have separated, and that changes the financial information that was imported from 2 years ago. So this form typically becomes available in June. It's actually available now, but that's something that you could fill out, and we could do a redetermination of your aid. It does require a lot of documentation, and it's really important that you submit that all. But a student can look for that form on our website, and then part of the form will be providing an email address so that we can push out part of the form to your parent for them to upload their own information. If you have a Michigan Achievement Scholarship or think that you are eligible for one, it's important that you go to the MISIG portal and make sure that EMU shows your school of choice. So especially if you put a number of schools on your FAFSA, that may not be reflected in the state portal. So the easiest way to get there is you can just Google this, MISSG. The first hit you'll get is the state portal. And if you haven't already, you can set up an account really easily and then just make sure that that shows EMU. So we will put all Michigan Achievement Scholarships on an offer status, and then it's up to you as the student to make sure that portal is updated so that when the state gives us access to the rosters, we can change those from an offer to an award on your behalf. Activating your EMU Eagle One card is something that you'll do when it comes in the mail. You've started that process today. Once you get your picture taken, that starts the process for your EMU ID card. It will come in the mail, or if you, there might be also the option to have it picked up at Service EMU. But either way, once you get that card, it's important that you activate it. You determine a refund and a payroll preference in the activation of that card. So for on-campus students, they know they have to activate this because this is how they get access to their residence hall and their meal plan. But a lot of times commuters might kind of miss this step thinking, well, I don't need an ID card. But again, it's important that you have this so that you can activate it and determine if you get a job on campus, it'll be how you receive direct deposit of your payroll. And if you ever have a credit balance of financial aid where you have more financial aid than what you need to pay your bill, that will be something that you get to have access to by activating that Eagle One card and setting up that preference. I also mentioned this already, but do encourage you to log into your e-bill. It's $0 right now if it's before July, which is a nice thing to see. And then also, again, set up those authorized users. So that way, anybody else that might be making a payment or even that you just want to be able to see your bill along with you will have that access. And this is different than the FERPA form. Just to clarify, setting up an authorized user does not give us permission to talk to that person. It just gives them access to your billing portal. Likewise, doing a FERPA release for someone doesn't give them authorized user access. You have to do the two things separately. And then finally, and this is one of the most important things that you need to do, but you can't do until after you graduate high school. You need to have your final high school transcript sent to us with your graduation date. There's no point in doing that now, per se. Once you graduate, though, you'll want to, if you have access to order that through Parchment, go online to do that or talk to your high school guidance counselor about the fact that you're going to Eastern and ask them to make sure that your official high school school transcript is sent with your graduation date. And most high school counselors are familiar with this, but it is required. If you ever go to your eval and are expecting aid and don't see it, it shows 0, that's a pretty good indication that we might not have that final high school transcript. So even though this is the last part of your admission process, we talk about it in financial aid because it's so critical. We cannot disperse any financial aid to a student who is not fully admitted and has proved that they've graduated from high school. So you have to have that on file before we can process any of your aid, and that includes outside scholarships, Emerald Scholarship, not just federal or state aid. That's the end of this presentation. Again, if you're listening to this on a SOAR day and your parent or family member plans to come to the session, there'll be the opportunity for them to ask questions. But otherwise, if you do have any questions that weren't covered in this, we encourage you to call us. We encourage you to email us and get in touch with us in person if that's your preferred method, so that you can get those questions answered before the semester starts. Thanks so much and welcome to EMU.